Welcome to today's meeting of the ESPO Finance and Audit Subcommittee. This meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube and it will also be available for viewing after the meeting. We have received apologies from Dr. Feltham, Councillor Clancy, Councillor Coles and Councillor Butlin, who will be substituted by Councillor Watson. As the first item on the agenda, members are recommended to appoint Councillor Watson as chairman for the duration of this meeting. Is that agreed?
Yes, that's fine.
Perfect. Over to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, right, first item on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of May. Now, I wasn't at that meeting, but I'm not sure how many others on this call were at that meeting. But has everyone had a chance to look at those minutes?
Yeah.
And are people happy with those minutes that we accept them?
Yeah, well, I wasn't in attendance, but yes, I'm happy to accept them on Andrew's behalf, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, should we accept those as confirmed, sign them? Well, I mean, I take it Councillor Butlin will sign those at some stage in the future, but we're happy to accept them. Okay. The next item on the agenda is to declare any interests.
No.
Has anyone got any interest to declare? I can't see any hands. Okay, next one is any urgent actions. I've been advised that there are no urgent actions that need to come into this agenda. So we are okay to crack on with the formal meeting. And item 5 then is the progress against the 2021-22 internal audit plan, which is pages 7 to 16 in your pack. And I think, Matt, you're going to kick off for us.
That's right, yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's a routine, obviously, progress against the 21-22 plan, but as a reminder, this was the plan that went to this committee on the 3rd of February last year, and then was agreed by Management Committee on the 17th of March. How we formulate our plans will be part of the next paper, so I don't intend to dwell on that, but really just wanted to go into the detail on the with a quick canter through the paper. So paragraph 5 explains our assurance levels from full assurance through to little assurance. Just to explain, partial or little assurance ratings may well result in a high importance recommendation or more than one. And as part of that process, we then follow up and retest and keep this committee updated that the key risk areas have been addressed, which, to be honest, brings me nicely on to paragraph 7, where we talk about high importance recommendations. Just as a reminder, we've got one such partial opinion report in this committee's domain at the minute in respect of credit control. And I just wanted to briefly summarise where we are on that. What I can say is good progress has been made from our testing to date. Our tests will be concluded at the same time as our general financial systems coverage. The reason for that is it's a lot easier and a lot more efficient because they're both similar sorts of areas and the same people, so it's a lot better to do it then. And we anticipate them being able to report back that the work's been completed for the May meeting of this committee, and then we can report back whether the key risks have been fully addressed. So that's the high importance recommendations. Moving on to paragraph 8. Paragraph 8 obviously explains that the plan is a live document and will make changes in the year to reflect more urgent items. So as examples, under emerging risks, we've talked about, we looked, with the revised expense procedures and gave some control advice from the outset, which is typically the way we like to do things, obviously, getting from the outset and putting the control advice, then come in and do a separate job to actually test them. So it's a two-pronged coverage, give some advice and then come in and see if it's working as intended. So we did that under emerging risks. And then under contingency, we looked at 4 specific auditable areas, 3 of which related to potential cybersecurity issues. So as a related aside, we knew that cybersecurity risks were extremely high throughout all auditable areas, to be honest, and all organisations. So we put a job in our 21-22 plan, and that's just seeing the linkage, if you like. So the significance of all that is paragraph 8 concludes with the fact that we started off with 16 jobs and ended up with 19 in the plan, but we did defer or cancel 3 of them to be able to accommodate these extra jobs. Talking about the 19 jobs then that we ended up with, paragraph 9 explains the progress against those jobs in the first 2 rows of that table, and that can be summarised as we've completed at least a draft report stage on 12 of them, and 7 of them remain work in progress. But I think most importantly, and this gets mentioned in paragraph 10, of those 7 that are work in progress, 5 of them needed to be at that stage. We needed to do them in the final quarter for varying reasons. So in concluding really the whole paper, to me the key headlines for this committee are that we anticipate closing off the high importance recommendation in respect of credit control for the May committee. We're broadly on track with the plan, which is great news. It's inevitable that some work will carry over into the next year. The plan doesn't end artificially on the 31st of March, but we'll be prepping and planning work for 22-23 in March as well. So although we've got a few legacy areas to complete from 21-22, we'll have offset this in part with initial planning work for the next year. Finally, but probably most importantly, I think it's important to stress that throughout the year we've continued to have an excellent working relationship with the management team and the staff at ESPO, and really it's only minimal hampering through continued remote working. So encouraging news, and I'm happy to take any questions on the progress fee plan report.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, can I just ask one, please?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Just on obviously the cyber security, I think is just pertinent to everybody, isn't it? It's just one you've got to, it's always, I know from the county council's perspective, it's always going to be on red, because it's just one of those sort of things we have to try and live with. On the, you've obviously deferred the rebate income. I'm just trying to look at I can't find that. The rebate income audit. There's no issues on that, we think, at the moment.
Christian, do you want to say anything about it first?
Yeah, no, it's a really fair question. Well, I'd say it was just a question of prioritisation. The rebate we do, the audit for the rebate happens frequently, and it's a useful audit. But if you look at the rebate income, it's at a record high. So that doesn't indicate to me there's a particular issue at the moment with leakage or unpaid rebate. But obviously, as you've already articulated, Councillor Warren, cyber security is a huge issue for us. So I think on balance, it was just the prudent thing to do. Yeah.
And that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions? I don't see any hands. Okay, so could I just please ask that the report is noted? Is everyone in agreement?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, moving on to item 6. This is the annual internal audit plan for 22-23. And I think, Neil, you're going to kick us off with this one.
I am, Chair. Thanks very much, and welcome to everybody. It's just a little bit of a preamble, really, to what Matt's going to give us detail as to how we set our plans up. So, obviously, Leicestershire is the servicing authority for ESPO, and the consortium treasurer has to provide an internal audit function for ESPO. So, my staff conform to what's known as public sector internal audit standards, and within those is a requirement for me to provide an annual opinion on what's known as the adequacy and effectiveness of ESPO's control environment, and that's its frameworks of governance, risk management and internal control. This in turn my opinion, can then be referred to in ESPO's annual reporting on its governance arrangements. So in order to reach that opinion, I have to prepare a wide-ranging risk-based plan of audits based on ESPO's goals. And the Finance and Audit Subcommittee acts as the board for the purposes of the internal audit. However, the Management Committee actually approves the plan, and it'll do so at its meeting 16th of March. So how we go about it really is to meet with all the directors. Matt meets with the directors, as you just mentioned. He has a very good relationship with being engaging with those. It is actually for ESPO's leadership team to identify and manage risk, as we know. And what we try to do is align our audit register to our audit plan to the corporate risk register, business strategies, and any governance issues. So we do consult with the director and the leadership team, the Treasurer and Secretary, on emerging risks, plan changes and potential issues. What we also do is we try to compare against similar purchasing consortia audit plans. So had a quick look at YPO when we are on very similar lines to YPO. In fact, we're actually a much broader coverage in terms of some of the areas we've got, which I think shows some of ESPO's personal development anyway. And then part of the plan, as Matt's just mentioned, relates to financial and IT systems. They can be helpful towards your external auditors when they plan their risk assessment. And then also we'll look at major projects and business growth development. So they're within the plan. Matt will give some detail on these. And of course, we keep a contingency for, as Matt explained, things. I was chuckling to myself because I think he said about the 31st of March. I remember last year we said the world never ends on the 31st of March. And I think this time last year we all thought it might have done. So we managed to get through a year so far. But that was how we approached the audit plan. I will say for Councillor Goodliff, I think she's new to audit and risk, and so if she needs any further support or guidance on how we approach our audits, then we'll be glad to do that in the background. I'll pass on now to Matt though for sorry, Councillor, you're trying to say something. I think she's on mute. But I'll pass over to Matt for any detail in the plan.
Thank you, Neil. The initial plan for 22-23 then is found in the appendix on page 21 of your pack. I'll just pause so that members can actually find that. So we've got 150 days provided for a wide range and scope of audits. As Neil said, that will enable him to form an opinion on the overall adequacy and effectiveness of ESPO's control environment. We're built in there a small amount of resource to finalise 21-22 audits, but as mentioned previously, some of that will be offset with early planning on 22-23 audits. We've assessed the potential auditable areas against the ESPO risk register, and if you look at the penultimate column, it makes reference to this, so they relate to the risks on the risk register to make sure we're tackling key risks. Also, in relation to that, we're undertaking a risk management audit at the minute, which makes sure we can place reliance on this risk register. So it gives an assurance on the risk management process at ESPO. As Neil said, I'd also like to add that while no two organisations are the same in terms of short, medium and long-term objectives, we've also mapped the number of days and audit themes against comparable internal audit functions of similar organisations to that of ESPO. So we have benchmarked as part of the process. So we've got the typical traditional areas that you'd expect to see in the plan, and I've just pull out a few of those. So IT and general financial systems, procurement, areas on business continuity and disaster recovery, rebates work, looking at frameworks, etc. But also, importantly, we've got areas in the plan relating to new and emerging risks both to the organisation and sort of on a national level. So on a local level, we've got additional warehouse capacity, and we've got the IT developments and looking at variations to pay approvals. But we're also pulling in data analytics to look at the payables database to make sure there's no duplicate vendors on there that could potentially lead to duplicate payments. And we're also looking at cybersecurity, which continuing to look at that because obviously it's a significant risk to any organisation. It's important to stress that it is only a statement of intent, and it may be necessary to review and adjust in response to ESPO's business risks, operations programmes, systems and controls, and we've already said that occurred in the 21-22 plan in the previous paper. The head of audit will discuss and agree any material changes with the director of ESPO and the consortium treasurer, and these will be reported to the relevant committee. And again, we've already done that in the Progress V plan paper today. In progressing the audit plan, obviously our role is to carry out independent and objective audits and to give an opinion on the extent to which risk is being managed, and where appropriate to make recommendations to improve controls. So each audit, the scope, the timing and any areas for exclusion are agreed with the relevant risk owners in advance and signed off. On completion, the findings and any recommendations will be discussed before issuing a report to the director and treasurer. Progress and outcomes are reported each quarter to the treasurer and to the director, and then obviously they're brought more formally to the Finance and Audit Subcommittee at its scheduled meetings. But it's also important to note that any urgent matters in the interim period will be taken to the Management Committee. If any audit produces a high importance recommendation, then the full report may be shared with the subcommittee and or the Management Committee, subject to timing. And specifically, retesting is undertaken in the year to prove that the control has actually improved and is embedded, and we can, well, as mentioned previously in the credit control audit, that process that we actually do to retest. I think that's really all I wanted to say about it. Again, a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the plan, but Neil and I will be happy to take questions on it. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Matt. Thanks, Neil. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, Councillor Lawrence. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, just on the, you said you're going to do the accounts payable in some of your audit processes in those days. Do you have much of an issue with potential duplicate payments, or is that just something that's sort of fairly minimal, generally speaking?
In terms of on a national level, it's a key area for us to address, I'd say. But also on a local level, there has been some that were detected and corrected by ESPO. So we just feel it important. We've got a data analytics tool, and we feel it quite important just to run that against the database as it stands, just to do that distinct area on, whether there's any duplicates or potential duplicate addresses that could lead to a duplicate payment. Particularly because bank mandate fraud, especially as a result of people working remotely, is a key area of fraud at the minute. So we just feel it's important to look at that area. I don't know if anyone else has got anything to add on that, or whether that satisfies the question. David, I think you have.
Yeah, I'd just add it's a great control, and using the software is a really powerful tool to help review and assess the sort of quality of our controls. In terms of the National Fraud Initiative work, it was helpful in identifying something that went wrong in late 2018, and so yeah, it's a really powerful tool. Only serves to sort of help us. Yeah,
and the bank mandate thing, Christian, you were going to look at toughening up some of the procedures that would, so changing a bank account was pretty hard work unless you went through a senior manager.
Yeah, no, exactly right, Councillor Rawlins. So we've got like a two-stage sign-off. Obviously, the forms are prepared within finance, but yeah, very rigorous process of signatories and dual signatories. So that's in place.
Because the fraudsters are very ingenious, aren't they? Unfortunately.
Yeah, they are indeed.
Just following on from that, Christian, is the process also from a goods receipting perspective as such? The person who raises a PO can't approve a PO type thing. Do we have those sorts of measures in place?
Yeah, we have separation of duties as standard. I mean, Dave probably give a full comprehensive answer, but as a principle, yes, we have separation of duties for goods receiving, raising invoice, approving, and the same as everybody else, I guess. Dave, is there anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, exactly right. We've got systems set up to control that, and it's all controlled by sort of an electronic workflow system to ensure that we get that dual sign off, and that no one person can follow a transaction from start to finish themselves.
Thank you. Anyone got any other questions? I mean, it does sound a very kind of robust process, which is good. Okay, could I ask that we support the methodology used as a basis for developing this internal plan, and also recommend that the management committee agree the ESPO internal audit plan for 21-22 at its meeting on the 16th of March? Everyone in agreement with that?
Agreed, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.